Hello, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Artist Blueprint with John Henry Soto and George Batista. We are very excited to be here this evening. We have a little bit of I guess it's sort of a different type of approach to a conversation that George and I were talking about. We're going to bring some what, why, who, how conversations about certain things. um, I think I might talk a little bit about what you and I were talking about right before we came on. And I think one of the reasons we wanted to do this show was because we wanted to be able to talk about things that sometimes we talk about when before we go live, and then we think to ourselves, why didn't we do that on the show?
It always happens.
It always happens, and then the show starts, and we have a great time here, and we have a good show. But it's something like, man, that would have been a good topic for conversation. So we had a pretty good conversation right now. George talking about we were talking about college and his daughter going to college. We were talking about school. We are talking about our jobs and resumes. We talked about all these things that we talked about. We talked about my setup here of how I actually am able to be productive with my setups and a video that I'm working on where it's going to be part of the artist blueprint. So we're going to be talking about that and more today, and just whatever is on your mind. We really want to hear from y'all. So if anybody's up there, anybody out there, let me know and give us a holler before we get started. Obviously, we're going to do our love to our sponsor, and I'm going to turn it over to George.
Thank you, sir. So,
George.
yes. The Artist Blueprint is brought to you by Wellness Resources, a family owned and operated nutritional supplement company providing the highest quality, clinically formulated supplements since 1985. Tell them, Johnny. Find out why. I feel like I'm on Jeopardy or something. Find out why they are amazing supplements and why I use them every single day. And look at that, John. He changed the promo code and everything. Man, he is on the money.
Yeah.
So if you enter the promo code Artist Blueprint at checkout, you will receive free shipping on your order. And then you can add to that their monthly special. And of course, because it is February and it is Heart Health Month, we have to make sure that we take care of our cardiovascular health. So we have 25% off their cardiovascular supplements in February. Amazing supplements, from magnesium supplements to their cardio helper supplements. Really, really great stuff. So I would suggest you check them out. So again, it's Wellness Resources at myvitaminresource.com.
Yes, great stuff. Definitely great company, and we're happy to have them. Okay, so yeah, remember I said
Where do we
earlier.
go from here?
Yeah, I said earlier. I was like, imagine when this show just tanks. Um, but one of the things that go ahead, what?
No, I'm just gonna say
Oh,
we can't.
your shirt
We got
matches
nowhere
are.
to go but up.
That's right.
My shirt
Um,
what matches what?
your shirt matches are the colors of the
Oh,
show
yeah,
perfectly.
see,
Actually,
all right, yes.
wearing the brands. He's a
I got
brand
the brand
wearer.
behind me too.
Yeah, and you got that. Yeah, you got it all going on. It says on
Huh?
air as opposed to last week where it was Rihanna.
Ria. Oh,
Um,
John. John's dyslexic.
yes. So I hope you're all doing well out there. George and I were talking about some of the things. I'm working on a video right now that I'm putting together for the Artist Blueprint brand, I guess, to kind of help. One of the things I do consulting for social media, and I've been doing that for quite a few years now, and for video content as well. And the thing that I always run into the most that people say that they don't have enough of is
Time.
time. They just don't have time. So they don't have enough time for this, they don't have enough time for that. And social media is, it's one of those things that now is, now you can go on to Craigslist, you can go on to Monster builder or whatever the
Indeed.
Indeed is in the latest one, right? And what's the other one? There's another one I can't think of now. But you can go onto these sites, and Career Builder is the one I was thinking of,
Career builder.
and you can see actual positions, social media marketing, and they actually have real positions that actually have really good salaries in them, and companies are now finally are recognizing that this is an actual needed part of the business. It's not entirely your business, but it is a portion of your marketing budget should be social media marketing. It should just be an automatic part of the budget. So when you're doing the budget, you put that in there for whatever it is, right? But what I run into is even if it's in the budget, even if they bring me on as a consultant, um, time is still a factor for them. You know, this is not just businesses. This is also individuals that I've spoken to, artists that I've spoken to, musicians, actors, dancers, whatever they do, filmmakers. They or even just influencers, if you I don't know if that's a thing anymore, but people that are out there just putting out content to help others, right? Well, it takes time to put those things together. So what I did, and I kind of did this, I don't know if it was accidental. I wanted to do this, but as I looked back on some of the things that I use in order to speed things up and to be able to just be in, where we're in the moment, and be able to actually put out content fairly quickly, is that I made all the areas where I work in, all the areas where I spend the most time in, to have all the tools that I need in order to go live, in order to put out a piece of content, in order to put out a reel, a post, or whatever it is, or even a photo. Um, Answer my phone, answer an email, answer a text. Wherever the places that I go to the most, I have that set up, right? So what I did was I aligned the places first of all, right? So some people may have three, they may have two, they may have one. For me, is three, right? I have my workspace here, which I was telling George all the stuff that I'm not going to go into all the details today because I'm going to put this all on a video. But in this workspace here, I have things to accommodate pretty much. I can sit here for hours and I can write, I can do social media content. I can go live. I can read my book. I can do courses that I'm on because I have my courses here. I also have a board here with all my projects that I'm working on. Everything is just right in this area. The other place that I'm consistently in is the kitchen. So in the kitchen, I have a corner and it has all the stuff that I have. A tablet. I have a place for my phone. I have a place for notes. It's all right there. Now, one of the prerequisites is to make sure that your spouse is on board. So you have to first find that out first. If they're on board for you to make certain areas of your house look different because it's about the content and it's about the work, right? Now I've got over the hump. I got over the hump because I make good money doing these things and having these areas here. So I don't have a problem now. But at the beginning, it was a problem. It was a problem. Why is this mic stand with a phone clamp in the middle of the kitchen? Like, well, I was going to do some content later on when I'm making some steaks, and that became a conversation. But once those conversations are done, and you say, okay, and I don't think people really talk in sometimes some relationships. I don't think they sit down and they say, "Look, honey, this is really important to me. I really need your support on this." Right? I mean, if you went to someone that you married and you fell in love and you were like serious and said, "Can we sit down and have a conversation, please?" And they were like, "Oh, what's this all about?" It's kind of serious because I'm really passionate about this one thing that I'm trying to achieve, this goal, and I need your assistance. Okay, I need to hang bells in the. I need a trampoline in the center of the. Listen,
Again?
listen. I need a lamb meat pole in the center. Where you can have the meat for.
I have a trampoline, but it's not for business.
Um, okay, see, I don't want to go into George's personal
I'm
life.
sorry, it's the trapeze. Sorry.
Puppies. So you have those serious conversations with your significant other, and you tell them, man, and if they say like, no, I'm not supporting that, well, then get the hell out. No, I'm just kidding. No, I mean, try to work it out,
Yeah.
and if and then obviously after that, then you have other issues if you don't get support from your your partner, because that's something I won't advise on. But if you're unhappy, um, anyway,
What are you trying to say, John?
I didn't think I said it. I'm trying to say nothing. Anyway, so I want to be putting that video together and I think it's gonna be helpful. I think people are gonna look at it and be like, oh, I never. There's things that I've put together that I didn't really think of when I was doing it, other than I thought, what's the easiest way for me to have that? Like my phone is right here. It's on a mic stand. It's on a boom mic stand, right? So the boom mic comes out on the front of the boom mic. I can't put my phone in there because it just holds the mic, right? So
Hmm.
I screwed that out, and on it I put a clamp for a phone. That's actually a very simple clamp that you can actually purchase on Amazon, and I have it right onto this thing, so I can push it. So it's right here in front of me. I can, so while I'm here, I can answer messages that come in on Instagram, because we're also live on Instagram right now. And if messages come in, I can actually see the messages as they come in. Um, I have all my books, I have my drinks, I have everything here was on purpose. And I think that's what you need to look at. Look at what it is that I need when I'm here. To work conveniently, quick. To put the content out where it's not so stressful, where it's like, I got to find a place. What am I going to do? Well, the lighting's not good here. No, find those places first, and then set them up to work.
It's a beautiful concept. You know what's it is a beautiful concept. You know what's interesting though? I know people that will be outside of their comfort zone. For example, meaning that they'll have stuff all over the place, right? But to them that's like organized chaos. But if you tell them, okay, take all that stuff and put it all in one place, and this way you have it all in one place, they're like, it's a
Yeah,
foreign thing to them,
yeah,
right? Because for whatever reason, they become conditioned to have things all over the place.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? So it's like sometimes you have to get past that point. Like what you're doing is great if you can actually get past the concept of that you have to do it initially, right?
right. And it's also not so much the organize. It's because I mean, we came from a house to a small apartment. Now we're living in Nashville, right? Before we're gonna buy a house, but right now we're in a two-bedroom. It's a nice place, it's very nice, but it's small, much smaller than what we had.
Hmm.
So we have to be very, very careful about being messy. We also have two kids, and we have also a lot of friends. We got two of their friends are here now, hanging out. So there's a lot of stuff going on in the house. My wife's a painter, so she's got her space to paint. She's got her desk that she's got to work in. I got my work desk. I got my, we have a lot of stuff going on here. But you have to look at what your purpose is.
Mm,
What do you want to accomplish? Because you can use all the excuses in the world. I mean, I'm telling you, you humans can conjure up the most amazing excuses for not doing something. And the reason is because it takes them slightly out of their comfort zone. It makes them feel like they're not in control in some way, whatever that is. But they don't realize that that is the direction to control.
right.
You get more control when you can control your environment, and you can actually control what your purpose is.
Right.
At least the direction of your purpose. And you deal with this with nutrition, because
Hmm.
you're talking to people and be like, I've had people tell me straight out, like, well, breads and rice and all, and pastas and stuff like that, there's a lot of starchy foods, and it turns into sugar, and it can go, oh, well, I can't give that stuff up, no way, I can't go away. But then meanwhile they're ill,
Yeah.
they're walking around and not feeling good about themselves and feeling, whatever they're feeling, and not to shame anybody in that respect, because I know we're living in a delicate, current state. But okay, what do you, oh, now what? It's some magic gonna happen in the future that you think that they're gonna something's gonna happen. I mean, to me, it's always like people waiting to do stuff, and they're like they don't want to do it. That wait till later. I'm like, okay, well, what's the difference between then or later and now?
But it's funny
What's
because when
behind?
you say that, whether it's the nutrition thing or even what you're doing on that, people, when you tell people that, they'll look at you like you're doing something magical.
So
I can't
simple and
I
not
can't do
no
what he
magic at
did.
all.
I can't do what
Right,
he did because it's
right,
magical. It's, oh well,
right.
you did that. You know how to do all that stuff, And I'm like,
Yeah.
what are you talking about?
Well, that's the thing I hear about, like playing music,
Yeah.
editing films, directing, acting, all that stuff. It's like I wasn't born doing any of these things. You know what I mean? I was definitely not born doing anything. Maybe I was born acting, because I was always a little clown. But uh,
And you
I
were the same
wasn't born
height, but that
same height, same clown. Yeah, I never expanded to that. But I didn't know how to do any of these things.
right.
I had to find the time to learn, to teach myself. And to some classes and whatever else I took on some things. But um, it's that first step. And I it's sad because I've known people now. I'm old enough now where I have friends for 25 years, right? And I never thought when I was growing up that you could have a friend for 25 years. I'm like, how can you know somebody for 25 years? No, I have friends for longer than that,
Hmm.
longer than that. But you have these conversations with them, and not even that long ago, like 10 years ago, having a conversation with someone and motivating them into, like, and this is like still when I was kind of trying to motivate myself. And by the way, a lot of these things that I actually talk about and stuff, they're really to also help me. It's not like I have it all figured out.
Yeah.
I'm there looking in the mirror, talking to myself on a daily basis. I do my workouts every day, talking to myself like I got to get this done. I got to work it out. I got to figure it out. I'm trying to kind of jazz myself up in this at the same time. But I figure since I'm doing it, maybe I could help somebody come along.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I put this stuff out there and try to help someone. And then 10 years goes by and they didn't move. They didn't move. You'll have a conversation with them and it'll be the same conversation. But my heart breaks because I know that they're capable,
Yeah.
but they have a fear of something, and sometimes that fear has a bigger hold on them than
Yes.
the drive to their passion is.
Yes.
So if your fear has a tighter grip on you than you have a grip on your passion, then you're going to lose. You're going to lose. You have to jump. You have to jump. I tell people who don't want to go live or anything like that, you got to go live. Just do it once. I swear you're gonna feel better at the end of it. Doesn't matter how it goes because you did it. They didn't.
Right.
It's like when George and I were playing in the band, or anywhere we were playing. You're on stage and there's a lot of people there and stuff, and you're playing. Well, you're there. You're there. You're doing it. It's like I'm not. I can't be thinking about what they're thinking about my playing because I'm the
Right.
one that took the risk of
Exactly.
putting my ass up on a stage and playing. You
Right.
know what I mean? And it's like, well, that took enough for me, at that
Mm.
moment. And I think it's a good lesson to be to talk about.
Agreed. I remember the first time. I remember the first time we played a stage, and
I know.
how I remember. I remember the day of how nervous I was.
Where
Like
was that? That was with
that.
me or by oh,
No, that was with us in Hassan Sound.
oh my god.
We played. We
Hudson
played a.
Sound,
We
that was
played a.
our first
We played
band.
a club that in the city that now I don't know if it's even still there. It was called Sweetwaters, and it changed. It became Honeysuckle West, and then it went back to Sweetwaters. I think
Oh,
when we played it, it was called Honeysuckle West. That was our first gig. By the way, there was two celebrities in the audience. One of them was Earl the Pearl Monroe, and the other one
George
was
remembers all these things.
yeah. That is it's a traumatic event for me. So of course I want to remember everything. And the other one was the guy from that band, Mr. Jones and Me. You know that band? They sing Mr. Jones.
Counting Crows.
Counting Crows. It was
Oh,
the keyboard player from Counting Crows, because when we played there, it was a showcase,
ah,
and they were there to see the bands. So we were one of the bands.
oh my God! I'm glad
And
I didn't know that.
by the
I was
way,
so clueless back then.
I still have a book of all those shows that I have pictures of you with the long hair and the guitar on stage at Honeysuckle West with JT and all that. And
Wow.
yeah, but I mean, but the point of that was that that was one of the scariest days of my life, performing in front of an actual audience, because you practice in the house and friends and family see you, but when you're actually performing in front of strangers in this showcase, it's like
Yeah.
and oh my god,
To me, it's a blur that whole time. I mean,
yeah,
I do remember it, but I was so tunnel vision.
right. But
Like
it's interesting because in my head, I always had the goal of being a professional musician and knowing that I have to do this in order to get, if I want to
yes,
play an arena, if I want to play a big place, I have to
yeah,
do this thing,
right. That
and as
that
scared as I was, I had to do it.
right. And that's a good point because I think that actually brings us to what I was saying. What is your purpose?
Hmm.
If your purpose is to do that thing, then the only way to do that thing is to do this thing first. There's
Exactly.
no way around it.
Right.
There is no way around it. And I think that's a really good point. Now I remember the singer from Shalimar.
We opened for him.
Oh, okay. So he was there.
Yes.
Okay, I do remember that. I remember there was like a Rolls Royce outside.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a big
Yeah,
deal. Yeah. Because
yeah,
he
it
was.
was a big deal. Yeah, he was a. I don't remember when this was. This was like 1945. It felt like that.
It was January 22nd, 1991.
Well, can we get the date on that? I
I
wonder.
had diarrhea all day. Um, we probably could, because if I look back at the book, the camera probably had the actual date on it.
Oh, that's right. Because cameras
Because
back then.
cameras at that time, you would have the
Yeah,
yeah.
because
This is
those
this.
were stills. Those were not. That
No, those
wasn't.
are all stills. Yeah, there was
Yeah,
no. Remember, there was no cell phones. There
yeah,
was
no digital
no.
camera, no nothing. Yeah,
This was all camera.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a good lesson though. You know, those moments. And I sometimes talk about my first audition that I ever went on. For a film. Yeah, all day long, I'm hoping that there's an earthquake or 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 a train derails. No one gets hurt, but the system is all shut down.
Yep.
Um, and I'm like, and I got this thing, and I know where I'm going. Everything is set up. I go outside. It's a beautiful sunny day. I'm like, damn it. And I show up at this audition and terrified. I'm sitting down, and then the thing about being terrified when you're terrified is that you try not to look terrified.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you almost look like you're relaxed,
Yeah.
but because I've had people tell me that, like I did a thing in New York, and I had to talk on stage and stuff, right? And so they hand me the mic and stuff, and I was like, hey, yeah, I'm pooping. I'm so freaked out. I mean, I am nervous as hell, but I do know that I have to do this,
Yes.
and I have to try to stay in the moment as much as I can.
Right.
And I have to answer the questions to whoever asked the question. And then and hand the mic over and stuff. And I even forgot the name of my film at one point at one of the festivals that I went to. And I was like, yeah, and I'm John Henry Soto. My film is, what's my film? And everybody laughed. I was like, oh yeah, it's Anne on that day. And but I was just nervous.
Yeah,
You know what
that's
I
what
mean?
it
I was
is.
just
It's nerves.
nervous,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's not nervous like I can't do the thing. It's just nervous because it's not a everyday thing that you do,
Right.
but you put yourself into that situation. And when I put myself into that audition, the audition went well.
Yeah.
The audition went well, and I talk about this constantly. It's like when I walked to the elevator after that audition, and I'm hitting that button to go down on the whatever floor in Manhattan. I was on top of the world. This little Puerto Rican was 10 feet tall. I
Yeah.
felt like I can do anything because now I did the hardest thing that
Yeah.
I could do was that one thing,
Right.
you know. a- And I thought to myself, I would never do it because I'll be too scared.
Right.
But I did it, and I was so like, and I just after that, it was like the second one, the third one. I just kept auditioning, and then started booking stuff, and it just. But that first one, it's so crippling to people.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so crippling that it really tragically we lose talented people because of that one little critical thing of fear.
It's funny. We had talked about this in a show previous, and you mentioned it also, that whole concept of like you wish that something would happen on the way there, right?
Yeah.
That, but it's true. You do have this thing where, because you also have to actually go, and it's
Physically.
the hardest part is the time between you actually have to
Oh,
go and get there to whatever it is that you're doing. Once you're in the moment, okay, fine, you're in the moment, you're doing it. But
right.
it's the time right before. It's like a lot of the athletes talk about right before the big game. It's that little time right before the game
Oh,
is
in
where
the
it's really
stage.
hitting you.
Yeah, like I remember just hitting the going to I remember what club we were playing somewhere in Manhattan somewhere, but and backstage and somebody comes in and okay guys, 10 minutes. Those 10 minutes
Yes,
are
yes,
the worst ten
yes.
minutes because you're just like, "Oh, can we just go out? It's just and then you're okay guys, I got and then you start
Right.
and then next thing you know you're in the middle of a song.
That's it. Yep.
In the middle of a song and you're playing and now you're remembering, okay, this is what we're doing, and now
Hmm.
now it and then after that first song you feel a little bit better, the second song, then maybe there's that fourth song that there's that section that you've been working on that maybe is not
Yeah.
tight, but
Yeah.
you want to make sure you focus on it, so you're a little bit nervous now because you want to get that part right. Then you get through that hump and maybe you nail it, maybe you don't, maybe you get through it, but you get through it, and then at the end of the show
Yeah.
it's like we're partying. We feel like we're on top of the world, and it's there's really people say how can we get through this, and how can we motivate ourselves. And I was thinking about this today, as a matter of fact, and I wrote it down because I want to talk about it on something. But if you are not your biggest motivator, if you are not the most supportive person in your life, you're not going to make it. If
Mm.
you're relying on that other person to get you there, if you're relying on that uh, app to get you there, or that course that I'm going to take to get you there, the courses that we see on Facebook, he goes, I make $20,000 a month now by just putting small ads on Amazon and selling product. You don't even have to start, all that stuff. I'm going to do that product because that's going to help me get the thing. If you're relying on things like that, and I'm not just saying that those things don't work. I don't know if they do or no, don't. But my point on that is, if you're relying on that, you're going to struggle.
Hmm.
You're going to struggle. You have to be the one that looks at yourself in the mirror. And I've done this, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. At my age, I'm not ashamed to admit it, that I still look at myself and be like, "All right, asshole, S- stop getting so nervous and make the phone call. Show up to that place. You got to meet that person. You got to network. You have to finish that editing thing, whatever you're doing."
Hmm.
And I'll say it to myself,
Yeah.
I have to be the person that has to push myself the most because my wife can't. My wife has her own stuff.
Hmm.
She's a mother. She's got she's a teacher. She's got a lot of things going on. She can't be she supports. That's
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
It's different,
Yeah.
but to motivate yourself, you have to find it within. It's and it is in you.
Yes.
It is in you. I always say that, with my JHS talent management, it's right there. You are the magic, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it is. You are the magic. There's nobody else that can create the magic that you can create. They're not going to create it for you.
Yeah. Right.
You have to go out there and you have to do it.
Well, it's like that thing when we were talking about before the show when you said that there are people who change their careers, right? They changed their
Oh yeah,
they've been they were a doctor, they were a lawyer, whatever it is. All of a sudden they decided, 20 years later, no, I'm doing something different. Or how about those people who go to college like after 50, or 60 years old and they get a
yeah,
degree because they're challenging themselves. I've always wanted to do it and I left college. Now I want to go back and do these things.
yeah,
And amazing stuff.
yeah, yeah. Because we're creative beings. Where we were meant to live.
Right.
This is why retirement is such a weird thing. You know what I
It
mean?
is.
It's like, and they make you. I'm saying they very broadly. I'm not picking any one thing, but they give you a number that this is when you should retire. So,
Right.
you're working basically. You have to for 18 years old, right? You have that adolescent, and then you're 18. You start working at 18. If you can start working at 18, then to 65, which is how many years? 40 something years, right? And then from 65 to wherever you decide to go,
Yeah.
that's how much time of life you have where you don't have anything, and maybe you'll have a little bit of money coming in from retirement and Social Security and whatever. I mean, that's not a normal thing, folks. You know what I mean? It's not God given. Like, it's
Right.
not. You can go to any religion on earth, and it will not talk about the 40-hour work week
Exactly.
and the 2-week vacations and the sick days and the unions, and it's not in there. That's man-made in order to get people to be productive in something that they need done.
Yes.
Somebody needs something done, so they hire. If somebody makes $20 an hour, right? Um, do you think that company is making $20 an hour?
They got to make
They
they
have to
what
make
you
1,000 times, or at least
yes, exactly. You're
more.
never paid what you're actually worth. Never.
No, no, because they have a huge organization,
Of
and they
course, because if they
want to
if
make
you're if they're paying you $20 an hour and then they're getting $20 an hour from the product, they're not making anything. They
not making
have to make
anything, so
more.
they
Okay.
have to do that. So whatever you're making, just know, you can either, it's what Jim Carrey said in one of his speeches, right? He was talking to a college or something, and he was saying that, you can go out there and you can take the safe job and live that life,
Mhm.
and then not feel happy, or you can take the risk,
Right.
take the risk of going out and trying something new. And
Right.
if you fail, at least you can look back and be like, I tried it.
Right.
I did it. You
Right.
know what I mean? And to be honest, no one fails when they try,
Of course not.
because they just keep trying. If you
Hmm.
have that innately in you, you just keep moving. And it's really, really an important thing for people to realize that we're not meant to live the way society is making us feel. This is part of the why, right? Today we're talking about what, who, what, why, who, and how.
Yeah.
And the what is what we were just talking about, but the why is like, why do we work the way we work? Why do we do that? It's because we've been conditioned to think that if you don't, you will be homeless,
Hmm.
you will have no food, and you can't support your family, right? Now, the way that things are structured, that is true.
Yes.
The way things are structured is true. We have a system that operates through currency, right? A certain type of currency. Currencies are a currency is just energy.
Hmm.
Money is energy, right? And
Correct.
energy is something it's a production of something.
Right.
You produce an energy of something, and that attracts money. So if you're a train conductor, well, you turn it on, you know how to do that. That energy of you doing that job is what's giving you your income. So if you take that energy and you take that idea and you say, okay, I'm going to start thinking with creating things with using my mind to help other people, to empower myself, to empower my family, and you take the viewpoint that way first,
Hmm.
learn a lot of stuff that you can be valuable, become so good at something, people want to hire you. They
Right.
want to. I had a consulting job that I have now that I'm doing, that I turned down twice because I don't, I wasn't sure I had enough time. So I told them that they called me back and said, please, we just need. So I was like, all right. So I said, well, this is what the time that I have. If that's acceptable, and this is the money, if those two things are acceptable, there you go. And I never thought in a million years that it would be acceptable, but they took it. They said
Right.
yes. I spent a lot of energy learning things, you
Right.
know, and it attracts money. So we're conditioned to understand that. But the problem is that when you're working for someone, the energy that you're putting out is the energy they need.
They need. Yes.
They need.
Yep.
So it's okay to do that. I put out energy to other
Yeah.
things. I work
Sure.
for
Sure.
I'm a media technology
Sure.
manager. I'm a consultant, social media. I put energy out to what they need as well. I like helping those organizations. They're also nonprofits, so there's a little bit more of a bigger purpose. But when I'm done, the energy I'm using then is towards me. It's towards me getting the knowledge that I can put stuff out that I know can help others.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. The trap is exactly that. We're conditioned to think that that's the only thing. Whatever if you are putting that energy into a company or whatever the case may be, that's the only thing, that there's nothing else. And then you're going to do that till retirement age. But then what happens at retirement? Nothing, right? How many people retire? I know people that have retired and just sit there and do nothing. And I'm like, so that's it? This is where it went to. I mean, from all those years of productivity that you were productive in this job and all this, to just sitting there. You
That's
know,
why retire. I mean, I guess artists really don't retire.
no, you know, no, no, no.
You have to like really be at a certain age where you physically maybe can't do the thing, and maybe that's a reason. You know what I mean? But just to retire because you've reached a certain age, it's not. It's just doesn't make any
No,
sense.
and the point is that there's yeah, even listen how, right, look at the life of an athlete, a professional athlete, right? They have a small window of time.
They could be done by 30, 30,
Yes, yes.
35.
The average years of a football player is literally, when you average all out, it's only a few years
Yeah,
of
it's like
the
4 or 5 years
four
or
or
something.
5 years that they actually, when you average it all among all players.
Yeah.
So when you think about it, right, they have a small window of time, and then after that, what are you going to do? You gotta
Yeah,
you know
you
you
have
got to
to
do
go
something else.
into.
And athletes tend to be driven people, so a lot of them open businesses, they'll open restaurants, they'll
Right.
investing, they'll get into all these different types of things. Okay, artists are like that as well. And the way I look at it is, okay, if you have a 9 to 5, that's fine. You got to support the family, you got to support, do all that stuff, but have something else, have a goal, have something you're working on, have whatever it is, whether it's music, or whether it's, a
Mm,
business, or whether
mm.
whatever it is, or consulting,
Yeah,
there's
and
so
most
many
people have
things.
that.
Right.
Most
Yeah.
people have it in their
They
minds.
have it in their mind, but they don't
They
actualize it.
don't.
And that's
They
the
don't.
difference,
Yeah.
because, again, it goes back to the time thing, right? Well, I work a 9 to 5 job. I got to take the kids. I got to
Yeah.
do this. I got to run. By the time I'm done, I'm spent. There's no time. And there's all
Yeah.
that type of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a lot of it goes back to like reevaluating how much energy you're putting into the job,
Right.
and if you want to even continue there, right? Because I
Yes.
mean, it's if you're losing a lot of the momentum of let's say you start a business, and starting a business can be pretty challenging,
Hmm.
but anybody, we live in America. We live in America, right? I mean, it's a wonderful country, and you can start a business. You can say you can't do that in a lot of countries, by the way.
True.
I mean, you can't just go, and I'm not going to mention the countries, but the famous countries that we all know, you can't just wake up one day and say, I'm going to start a business.
Right.
You got to get permission from so many different entities and governmental agencies, and see if they allow you. And then they'll be like, no, we don't want you to do that.
Yeah.
Go back to what you were doing before, and you're done. That's it. Here we have an opportunity. You have a chance. You can wake up one morning and say, I'm going to start a business in selling this, or I'm going to do consulting. I've been working in this field for many years. I'm going to create a consulting company, and I'm
Right.
going to do consulting in that area. You can work on that for 30 minutes a day, you know, but if you get home and you're completely tired and you have children and you have all those things are totally 100% legitimate. You know what I mean? They definitely, it's a thing. I'm not invalidating a person who comes home from working 40-hour week, and then, whatever the commute time
Mm-hmm.
is,
Mm-hmm.
have to come home, have to cook dinner for the family, have to take care of the kids, get the kids ready for bed, and all that is a real thing.
Sure.
That is a real thing. And if you're running into that type of situation, reevaluating things may be a good idea. Sitting with someone and maybe thinking, okay, maybe this job is not for me right now, or maybe I need to, maybe one person can work, you cut down on certain things. Sacrifices have to be made if you wanted to do
Right.
this thing with that much of a passion.
Right.
I mean, Pamela and I, my wife and I, we wanted to be there with our kids at the beginning, to do homeschooling. And so we took turns. She worked, and I was home, and then I worked, and then she was home, and then we
Mm.
both did that, and it was so hard. I mean, we suffered. It was brutal, and I'd have to really economize. I had to make sure we went to Costco and got the big meat and put it in the freezer, and had to make sure that we didn't spend money on certain things and all that, because we were working on something. You know what I mean? I was home watching the kids, but while my daughter was sleeping, I'm learning. I'm on webinars. I'm figuring things out. I'm doing content. I'm filming. I'm taking my daughter to video shoots where I was shooting local businesses, and I would take her, put her in a stroller, put my camera, my tripod, my lighting equipment, everything in the stroller, and walk down, and take down, and that's those sacrifices. I had no choice.
Yeah.
I had no choice. I had to either do that or just spend the next few years complaining about why I couldn't do it. I
And
couldn't
another,
do it.
and the other excuse also is that, and even this is the excuse that even that I had in my own head, and you and I talked about a little bit is, well, I never specialized it. I didn't go to school for whatever it is. I don't have a degree. I didn't go to college. I didn't finish college and all those
Right,
types of things. And and again, look what I'm doing. I never thought in a million years of what I'm doing. Okay.
right,
And, I didn't go to school for nutrition. I went to college, but I didn't go to college for this. You know what I'm
right.
saying? And the last 20 years of my life was just obsessed in learning. And just like you, John, webinars and books and trainings and all these things that I became obsessed
All
with.
all my books that
Right,
I'm
exactly.
constantly reading.
Right. And you become obsessed. And it's interesting because when you accumulate all that knowledge, when you really, it's almost like having a PhD in that subject, and, and then I do the podcast. And then, we talked about that whole thing and how I was so afraid of doing it, and I did it. And now I've already been approached like 2 or 3 times by companies to actually do a podcast for them.
Right,
Okay. And this is a guy who came nothing. I mean, I just, I talk about health and nutrition, and now I got people I've had them on my podcast like, hey, what do you do? Okay. And I've actually turned it down because because it was going to be too much content or too much, that I can't do in between all the other stuff I'm doing.
right,
And it's not because and I, very graciously, hey, look, I love you, thank you, but right now it's just not a good time because I got a lot of stuff going on. I got a kid going into college soon. There's a lot of stuff going on. But I would have never thought that would
yeah,
happen, right? And
yeah,
again, no degree in nutrition. No, I just was obsessed with learning. And
yeah.
there's so much content out there. There's so much, now forget about more than anything, because 20 years ago, there wasn't as much as there is now.
Hmm.
And forget it. You can, like I said, you can almost like get a master's just by
Yeah.
consuming all this content.
Well, it is also the 10,000 hours. I was just talking to
Right.
my
Exactly.
daughter about that.
Yep.
And about dancing. My daughter's a dancer, and she's taking dance classes, and she loves it. And I started. I broke down to when people talk about the 10,000 hours that you put
Yep.
into a subject that, theoretical, obviously,
Yeah.
it's, you'll be an expert at something if you put in the 10,000 hours.
Yep.
George and I can safely say that we're professional musicians because we put in 10,000 hours,
Oh
and
yeah.
then some,
Yeah. Way
because
more.
we were obsessed
Yeah.
with playing.
Yep.
The 10,000 hours with film and studying film. And for me, I 100% put that in. I've been doing this for 15 years now, and it's I didn't go to school for this. But then again, you go back in time, and you look at Quentin Tarantino, and you look at all these directors that never went to school for film. You know what I mean? And they're doing pretty good. I think storytelling and music, writing. Writing, maybe that there's some certain structures that you have to kind of like understand, but um, you know, writing. I learned writing literally from writing
Hmm.
and from watching movies.
Right.
I understand the arcs, and I understand the different conflicts, and I understand the characters and the backstories and all that, piecing it together in a format. I just learned that from doing it, and doing it badly, and
Right.
then getting better, and then doing it better, and then just getting better. But I think part of the challenge that people run into is because because if you've given in to the structure of society, and you've decided that, well, I have to work this job, it's 9 to 5, this is my life now, and I'm doing this, it pays me enough money where I can pay my bills, I can go to the movies on the weekends, and I can have my 2 weeks in Puerto Rico or in Hawaii or wherever you spend the 2 weeks. And if you're satisfied, with that, that's beautiful, because there are people that that's what they want in their lives. They want to be able to raise a family and spend that time with their family. It's all about their family. It's about, God, it's about their jobs. And that's what their lives is. And it's wonderful. You have to ask yourself, you know, am I in that category? Am I in the category of somebody who just wants that portion of life? And some people are, some people are.
There are the only pushback to that I would say is I think that if you were to sit every single person in that situation down, or and ask them just as a conversation, if we were being very open and say, if you if you didn't have to do that, what would be the dream thing you would be doing right now? And I
True.
think
True.
99% of the time you'll get a completely different answer.
Right. I mean, statistically, what is 7% of people are doing things that they don't want to be doing.
Right,
Right.
exactly.
It's only about 3% that are actually working at the job that
Yeah.
they want to work, because there's a safety
Yes.
issue there. I
That's what it
mean,
is, right.
you get that every 2 weeks or every week, that paycheck is going to hit that account, and you're going to feel a little bit better to spend and to buy some stuff and whatever. But I think you do get, there are people that go to school for accounting because they love numbers, and they end
Yeah.
up becoming accountants,
Accountants, yeah, absolutely.
and they love their job.
And that's
There are
their
people who
passion.
are lawyers, love being lawyers, and they become lawyers. Our cousin Jose
Is a doctor.
loved medicine.
Medicine.
He
Yep.
was Since he was a little boy, he was always wanting playing doctor, and so can't tell you what. Those were really uncomfortable examinations.
I was wondering
Hey,
how
what are you doing?
I was wondering how he became so good so fast.
So much practice. We got to practice again. Another exam. Um, no, but he was always wanted to be a doctor. He always talked about
Yeah.
doctor, and now he's been a doctor now for what, 30 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know
At
what I mean?
least.
He's a successful doctor. But I mean, there's certain things that people actually dive into that That's what they're gonna
It's
do.
like a cop, right? You know, somebody who was
Somebody who
we
loves
know
all,
who loved being cops when they were kids, and that
yeah,
was their obsession. That's what they were going to
yeah,
do.
and
You
they
know?
went and they did it, and
Yeah,
they did
yeah.
it, and that was like their goal, So there are people like that, and um, but sometimes you find things like, for instance, I'll give you an example. Like I work for this council, um, and they do great work there. And because I have so much, I got my board here, and you can see, I have my JHS Talent Management Company, Artist Blueprint, my band that I'm in, Mockingbird Canyon Road, and my filmmaking. I have a film thing that I'm working on. So I have this board here with all this stuff on it, right? But if I didn't have any of these things, if this was not the thing, and I had this job that was a very meaningful job, we work helping people. It's a nonprofit. I make good money there. I'm their media technology manager, so I'm working with technology and I'm doing films and editing and doing all that kind of cool stuff. I'd be okay with that. I'd be okay with that. I sincerely, you think about it, I'm like, you know what? They pay well. The people are nice to work with. The work is good, is satisfying. I I have some time off. I work remotely, so I can go into the office. I can not go into the office. I have flexibilities. That with the family, I can pick up my son from school. I can drop him off in the morning without it being a huge hassle. My wife is a teacher, so she can't always get out on time to pick him up. So I think to myself, you know what? That would be an okay thing. Now of course, my life has always been this. My life has
Right.
always been this freaking
Your life
thing
was that first before anything else.
before anything else. This is what I was always working on. It was to do
Right.
stuff like this, from early on that I can remember. So, but so there are, for me, it's like if you get into a position of a job that you really like, and at one point maybe I had the idea of wanting to do something else, but I found this thing that also fulfills me. I think it's okay. I'm playing a little devil's advocate here because I know that you and I kind of go always extreme to one side, and I think that there's always two sides to it. We don't know why someone decided to take the 9 to 5 and work 40 years and retire. Maybe they wanted to be done at 65. They take good care of their health. At 65, they're healthy. They want to move to Hawaii and they're going to live the rest of their lives on the beach. Hey, more power to you. I mean, that's great.
But I think you're going to find more of that in what you were talking about. In other words, the accountant that goes to school for accounting because he loves it becomes an accountant and retires, right? Or the doctor who does it and retires. And they have that specific thing that they go to school for and they retire. Versus the guy who did a lot of creative stuff when he was young, maybe stopped, and then got a job in just
That's
working for,
different.
you're right,
Yeah.
just working for a company,
Right.
right? Now, when you fundamentally look at that guy down to, did he really want to work in that company,
Right. And
or is there something else
that's
that he wanted to do?
individual. Yeah. And I think that's one of the reasons why I bring this up is because it's such an individual thing.
It is, yes,
It's
correct,
really, it's a
correct,
one-on-one thing. We're all, I mean, I know that, if you listen to the media or anything, we all get lumped into a category,
true,
right? Whether we're minorities, whether we're this, we're on the left, we're on the right, we're in the middle, wherever we get lumped into these categories. But with that those are just made up by some people. Those are not real things. We're all individuals. They're individual people, and yes, we were all. Some of us were all born in one place, and others were born in another place, and then we're all still individual uh, people made, by God, and we're here. We're here living our lives together. Um, so each person has their story. Each person has
yes,
their own reasons for doing what they're doing. We talk about artists because this is the artist blueprint. So if you're an artist and you're not doing the art because you're letting something else, or you're making excuses about it, well then that's a different thing. Then don't be an artist, but we hate to see you go. I want to see people doing their art. I
Right.
want to see people creating. I want to see people doing what they love to do. And even if you're not doing it, 7 days a week, but if you get off of work at 5 o'clock, you go home, you get ready, you get dressed, and you show up at 7:30 to an open mic, to a karaoke. If you're a singer, you can audition for a band and have rehearsals Friday nights and play gigs on Saturdays. And you can do a lot. You can also be part of a theater company. There's a theater company here in not far from here where I live, which I've met some of the actors there. They all have jobs and stuff, and they part of this nonprofit theater. They have the beautiful theater space and stuff, and they put on these great shows. I've been to them, and it's just a great thing. So you have to, kind of just make your way and be honest with yourself, and say, am I really doing it, or am I making excuses about it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, am I really, really trying? You know, because at the end of the day, nobody has more time than anybody else. We all have the same amount of time. And it's what you do with that time. And it's one of the reasons why I have all this stuff here set up, is because what projects are you working on? What film are you working on? Oh, I'm working on a film. It's called that right there. But when is your band playing? Oh, it's playing right there. Here's the thing. You know what I mean? Everything is right here. Quick, it's like, but you have to be honest with yourself,
Hmm.
and I think that's part of where it becomes a little challenging, because society might not allow you, well, not that they won't allow you, but it'll be easier to make the excuse, because parts of society will go along with you. You know,
Correct.
this is
Correct.
part. This is we live right now in a our culture right now is totally accepting to somebody who gives up.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
totally accepting and comforting, and
Well,
it's
it's
love. And for me, like George and I were relentless on one another about not giving up.
yeah.
Relentless. We played whether we were going to be with someone or be in a band or not. We got together and we played our instruments. And if it was only George and I, then that's what it would be. It'd be
Hmm.
just George and I playing. And that's what we did for
Yeah.
many, many years. It was
Yep.
just, and then we pulled in people and we put a band together and we wrote songs. But we always we were not going to let somebody just not do it.
Right.
We had to be tough with one another, and it was like, and that's what it took.
You're absolutely right, because about society, because again, more often than not, most of the people that are going to be around you are not going to be, unless you're born in a family of all musicians or artists or
Yeah,
whatever in general.
they'll be okay with it.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? They're gonna it's okay. Yeah, you didn't really want to do that stuff anyway. You didn't really
Yeah,
want
be
to
like, yeah,
play this.
it's really
You
hard
need to, get a
stuff.
real job, and that type of thing. You it's okay, because now you go back into their club, right? You go, it's like, okay, now
Yeah,
you're one of us now, because
now
when
you're
you're not in that
accepted,
club, when you're
feel
doing
better.
something right, when you're doing something different, it's like,
Yeah,
okay, he's doing that thing, but he's
yeah,
doing, it's, I experienced that,
yeah.
and to this day, I experience
Yeah,
that with a lot of people, who think even just doing this stuff is crazy for me,
yeah,
but another thing about that you had that, and again, going back to what you're doing there, is having these things in front of you, having these things there
yeah,
as constant reminders. It's interesting, because I remember being with again, I was in a marketing company and sales and stuff years ago. One of the things they said, which was very interesting, because you had to go to meetings, right, every week, to kind of get the motivation for that week,
right,
and I got the concept, because it's very easy when you're doing sales and network marketing and stuff like that to fall off if you're not constantly engaged with people around you, right?
right,
So you would go to the meeting and they pump you up, and then you're full of a room with other people who are like-minded, who are doing the same thing. And
right.
then you're like, oh, by the time you leave that room, you're flying. You're ready to sell to the next person you see.
Yeah,
And then they said, it was very interesting. They made the comparison of like a person who's very religious. And they said, Why? The religious person, they may go to church, a Catholic may go to church on Sunday every week, you know. Why? Because they're affirming that faith, right? They go there, they're with like-minded people in the church, and they come out of there and they feel
They're
good, and
ready
they
for the
have
week and feel
they're
better
ready for
about
the week, and they feel better about things and stuff like that.
yeah,
So it's having that thing in front of you always to remind you, hey, there's a purpose here, whatever the purpose is,
yeah.
you know. And I think that's part of that thing that you're doing also, because to have it constantly reminding you.
Yeah, that's a good point, and I think also, I did a show on this before, right? Be, do, have,
Yes,
right?
right.
And there's a whole show on this if anybody wants to check that out. But there's a whole story behind this little piece of wood. This is actually the bottom of a tree, a Christmas tree that I was selling Christmas trees, and something happened on there. You can check it
Good
out on
story.
that episode. But I have that right there. I look at that every day. And then over here,
Yeah.
I wrote think big, keep it light, keep postulating the change. Postulating meaning to decide on it, make a
Hmm.
decision on it. And postulates are not untruth,
Right.
meaning that a decision that you make is not an untruth, right? I mean, if you decided that you wanted to do that, well, that's not an untruth. That's your
Right.
decision.
Right.
And you may get swayed by something or somebody else, or you may lose interest, like George said. If you're not around like-minded people, you may leave there and be like, I was
Yep.
thinking about it, but
Right.
and then other stuff will come in. We
Yep.
start making more excuses. But I keep all those things here because it does affirm it. It
Hmm.
does also make me have to shift.
Right.
Like if I'm doing something and I'm like, okay, and I was talking to Georgia earlier about this. I know I have an hour break. In that hour break, what am I going to do? Sit here and just, or eat my lunch? No, I'm going to listen to a podcast. I'm
Hmm.
going to do a course that I'm doing here. I'm going to read some books that I have. I have all these books that I'm trying to read here. I just finished one here. I open it up right here where I'm sitting, right here in this spot where you seeing me. I push this mic that way, and I have a light right here. I turn the light over, and I'm right here, and I can read. As soon as I'm done, I close the book, and I go on to my Zoom meetings, and I go on to it's right here. So having the space workable
Yeah.
where you can produce
Yep.
content, high level, high level, not high level like I'm high level, but high quantity
Right.
of content. You can do a lot of things quickly. And I think that's really a game changer.
Yeah.
It's really a game changer. I know we talked about what, we talked about who, why, we talked about who. We kind of covered who a little bit. The in who. Is that we're trying to get the 97% to the 3%, right? We're trying to lower that number and trying to increase the 3% number. And those numbers are arbitrary. They're on polls, and they're different things that you can actually research. It may be different, but if you do your own poll and you go out and you ask just 10 of your friends the questions that George said earlier, was there something else that you would rather be doing than to do this job?
Hmm.
Do that poll on yourself,
Yeah.
or yourself, and ask 10 people. You can do it on an email.
Yep.
You can do it in a poll on Instagram. Matter of fact, that's
That's
a good
right.
idea. I might even do that, just to see what those numbers are, because I think more than likely it's going to be pretty close to that. A
Hmm.
lot of people would rather be doing something else, or maybe they're working towards it, but they're not there yet,
Right.
and that might fall in, but at least they're working towards it. So we're talking about people who are not working towards it. That's really where the challenge comes in. So how are we going to? We're at the hour here, so if you're still hanging out, as we always say, George and I, we love you from the bottom of our hearts because we really appreciate you hanging out with us. Because again, we also know that the world is filled with a lot of stuff going on out there. Our show, excuse me, my voice is changing. Ah, la, 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 la. Our show is light. We don't come at you with the. We want to give you solutions to make your life better, to empower you,
Yep.
so then you can go out and empower others. That's what the artist blueprint is all about. That's the only reason we exist, is because we want to do that. We sincerely do care about that. So the fact that you're still watching, and we appreciate that. Um, but we talk about the how as the last thing. You know, how we're going to handle this and how we're going to is to really find those like-minded people in your environment. You know, truly start understanding human beings. You know, start studying the being able to evaluate people's attitudes. Right. In my religion, we have a thing called the Chart of Human Evaluation, and it's in a book called Science of Survival. And that book, in that chart, has I've studied that chart so much that I know I could understand where people are coming from.
Right.
Because of that, I can provide better service to them, you know, and I could also avoid those that I know are either I could try to help them, but if they're self-destructive, there are people who are self-destructive. There are people who are going to succumb.
Yeah.
Let's lay that out there. Unfortunately, there are people who, no matter what you say or what you do, or you can give them a glass of water, and if they're dying of thirst, they'll throw it at you
Yeah.
because they are that far gone, right? And they will succumb. But if you can help an individual that's self-destructing and you can see that's happening and you can help them, wonderful. At some point, you might have to move on because you're trying to be productive and help those that are able, right?
Right.
So study things that are going to give you the tools that you're going to be able to find individuals that are like-minded that can help you build what you're trying to build, you know, or at least help you, or maybe you can help them because you're both on the same page, you know, and it's like, let's build this company together, you know. George and I with Artist Blueprint, you know, we're like-minded. We've been like-minded since we were kids. So,
Uh-huh.
you know, it's just an ongoing thing. But if you find somebody like that, hold on to them, treasure them, and make sure that you go out and start finding more and create a group. That's how we're gonna, you know, how we're going to really handle. Because right now we still run on money. Right? We talked
Yeah.
about this, right, George, with
Yeah.
Star Trek, and we want to do a
Yeah.
show on this because um, in Star Trek, you know, they don't have money in Star Trek, right? They have reputation is really important in money. Production is really important in money. What you do, is really important. How you treat others, you
Mm-hmm.
know, part of the reputation, and the currency comes from that,
Yeah.
basically. You know,
Yeah.
which is a wonderful, wonderful idea. It's people say, well, isn't that like everybody has the same? Everybody has socialism or whatever? No, it has nothing to do with that because it's still based on production. Remember,
Yes.
socialism and communism is based on no production.
Right.
You don't produce anything. You just do what we tell you, and we're going to give you some stuff.
Yeah.
You know, socialism, the welfare system, all those things are based on people who probably can produce something, but are told they can't produce and are given stuff. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the view that Roddenberry had in the 60s or maybe even earlier than that, where he saw this utopia society where everyone really uh, functioned with their highest abilities that they had to help society do better and move forward. And of
Yes.
course, it took hundreds of years for them to get to that. Maybe we will get there in a couple of 100 years. Right now, right now, the way things are, I don't see it just yet. But I do know that there are organizations that do operate with that in mind, wanting to
Mm-hmm.
just contribute. A lot of nonprofit organizations
Yeah.
that work helping society, and eventually, I think that just as a species, the rational part of our brain is going to be like, well, you know what? If I have a company and I make products that make people sick, they're going to die. Maybe I shouldn't do that anymore. Maybe I should make food that's good. Maybe I should get, whatever, I mean, we all know the thing. You know the thing.
Well, again, and John and I will do a show on it one day, but and
Yeah,
we actually did part of a show once on it a couple of years ago, I think. But again, it's just the one that the human condition that you have to eliminate in order for that to happen would be the greed.
the greed part.
Exactly.
It's always going to be greed
That's
because
the piece that somehow Gene
power,
Roddenberry or
control,
power, control, and
a weird
greed,
kind of thing that
right?
people have.
And in
Bizarre.
Star Trek, obviously, they figured out how to get past that. Of course, it took a third world war to do that, but they figured out how to kind of rebuild society and rebuild it in that way.
Yeah, and
So
there's still a military.
yes,
There's
correct,
and there's still a hierarchy. There are people that still are in command
right.
because there's a military that actually is more of a universal of a planetary kind of to protect the planet. Now there are other planets that have got.
Where has this show gone?
I realize that as I'm going into the other planets, and there's other planets, and
Oh, they're
anyway,
coming to get me right now.
like I just like I beam up.
uh,
But anyway, that's how they have
yes,
it. So it's still structured in a way. There's still structure in it. It's just the idea that money itself is not an actual thing,
right.
right? Which is, it's a fascinating idea to have because this planet is just so. Those that have money are in control. They're in control of the government. They're in control of politicians. They're in control of the food supply. They're in control of, and it's all because of money and supply. And they want more, and I want more money. And they're just that's what they do. It's like a weird kind of thing, but they're out there, and that's how that happens. So, how long is that going to take for it to kind of dissipate and turn into what we hope can be a future? We don't know. It could take hundreds of years. It can take, maybe it can take 10 years, maybe 50 years, maybe something will happen. Some people say we're in a reset right now, right? We're in a big, oh no, a reawakening of some sort right now, right? There have been a couple of awakenings in the past, right? There was like the first one, which was the first one. And there was a second one, which I think they call the second. And I think right now we're in the third one, which I believe they're going to name third. And these awakenings bring
Oh,
people into a higher level of consciousness where they can
right,
actually, the dark ages is what I was talking
right.
about. I think from the dark ages. And then the first great awakening was, I can't remember which one it was, but it's pretty good. They woke up. They had a good awakening. I always get like this at the end of the show because I think I'm just delirious. I'm talking. I should start the show delirious.
I agree. The first awakening was Star Trek: The Motion Picture,
Right,
and then
right, right. A little slower pace,
yeah.
but still good. All right, folks. Well, I don't know what we did today. I think I
all
think
I
we
you know,
covered. I
all
think
I
it was
got
great.
all I gotta say is
Wow.
wow.
So George has a tendency of saving these past clips from old shows of me saying things. But yes, so that was definitely a wow moment, and I think that we tend to have these shows really. We have some guests coming up also. By the way, we have some great guests coming up. We've been wanting to have guests, and scheduling is always a challenge. When you're in the business of guests, and we have. Oh, since you're here, since you're here. So we have a couple of guests coming up in February. We do have Oba Babatunde is going to be coming back on
Yeah.
February 27th. He'll be back
Oh,
here
it's gonna be
live.
so
We love
exciting.
when Oba
I
comes
love
on. He's
that.
been on
Friend of the show.
totally a friend of the show. He stopped in a couple of weeks ago on one of our shows just to say hello, just in the chat. Very very cool. In March, we have Tommy Burke is going to be coming back. Tommy Burke spent 30 years actually in Hollywood. Really, really 30 years of film and television production with life and near death lessons and dark humor. So I just started reading this. This is his new book. Tommy Burke is called Not Just Sunglasses and Autographs. Looking forward to that. And then on the 19th, we have I have a few other things that we're tying up, so we don't have anything, but we have some people here that I'm not going to go into everyone, but just know that we do have some guests coming on that we're really excited about, and we have a few messages out trying to schedule others as well. So we're excited about it, and it's a lot of fun. So all right, folks, thank you very much for hanging out with us this evening. We always appreciate you. We definitely don't take this for granted. We know that there's a lot of things that you can be doing, and we love you for the fact that you stick it out with us and you hang out with us every Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can visit right there, artistblueprint.live. Send your friends there. Join our mailing list so you can be notified about when we have live shows. Follow us on social media at Artist Blueprint. You can also follow George Batista. Check out George's show as well, the Wellness
Wellness talk.
Talk show. You can also catch that at the artistblueprint.live. You can see that there. You can catch all my social media stuff, and my band stuff is playing soon. So you can. There's a lot of stuff going on in the Artist Blueprint world, and we're grateful that you are part of it, and we love you for that. Thank you very much. All right, George. Thank you,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Thank you.
As always, and we will see you all next week. And as always, peace.
Peace.